Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon. Gold Rush, Tony Beets gives Parker Schnabel what Kevin wants. In the Gold Rush Season 14, Episode 15 entitled Succession, Tony Beets gives Parker Schnabel exactly what Kevin Beets wants. That is not all. This week, one gold miner has machine issues, another finds a surprise, and the third takes a big gamble. Here is the latest news on the popular Discovery series. What happens in Gold Rush Season 14 episode Succession? Gold Rush Season 14, Episode 15 is called Succession. What happens in this episode? According to Rotten Tomatoes, the Beets family implodes trying to get the Paradise Hill trauma running. Parker starts sluicing Australia Creek and finds a big surprise. Rick makes an all-or-nothing decision to return to Raleigh Valley. There is a lot to unpack here. Firstly, the Beets family does not seem to get any closer to healing their wounds. Moreover, their dismal gold totals show a lack of respect and ability to work as a team. Can the Beets family stop fighting and start working together? Next, Parker Schnabel continues to work hard. But what is this big surprise? There is no indication of whether this is a good or bad discovery. Lastly, Rick Ness has moved on from the Bacon Cut. Now, has returned to Raleigh Valley. Can they find a way to squeeze more gold each week? Team Raleigh has not made their goals. If he doesn't make it happen at Raleigh Valley, Rick may be done. Tony Beets gives Parker Schnabel what Kevin Beets wants. In addition to the Gold Rush synopsis, even more is happening this week on the Discovery show. According to the Twitter preview, Parker Schnabel gives Tony Beets a tour of his big purchase. Therefore, Parker shows Tony the Dominion Creek property and all of the machinery that he is going to have up for sale. Instead of buying anything, Tony gives Parker praise. He is proud of what Parker has accomplished. In return, Parker thanks Tony. Without Tony taking a gamble on him, he would not be where he is now. Tony's reply was genuine. He revealed that he knew what a good worker Parker was. Subsequently, he was happy to work with someone who put all of his efforts into making his gold mining business a success. Tony points out that Parker's desire is not something you can't get at school. Granted, Parker was taught by the best, John Schnabel. However, Tony's hard lessons are what made him a great success. In contrast, Kevin Beets wants credit. Moreover, he wants praise. But Tony Beets did not say anything of the kind. He seemed to take off the beginning of Gold Rush Season 14 with the excuse of gardening. Instead, he seemed to want to give his folks a lesson that he was indispensable. Last week, he returned but was not satisfied. Tony and Kevin are not communicating. The sun hung low in the Alaskan sky, casting a golden hue over the rugged landscape as Parker Schnabel trudged through the gravel, his mind consumed with thoughts of gold. He had come a long way from the wide-eyed young man who first set foot in the Klondike, driven by the same hunger that had drawn so many before him. Now, he was a seasoned miner, with dirt under his fingernails and determination etched into his every move. But even the most seasoned of miners couldn't prepare for what lay ahead. As Parker made his way back to his claim, he spotted a familiar figure in the distance. It was Tony Beets, the legendary miner whose name was synonymous with success in these parts. Parker's heart quickened at the sight of him, knowing that a chance encounter with Tony Beets could change everything. "Tony," Parker called out, waving as he approached. "What brings you out this way?" Tony Beets turned, a twinkle in his eye as he regarded Parker. "Just taking a stroll, Parker," he replied in his thick Dutch accent. "But I couldn't help but notice you out here, nose to the ground as always." Parker chuckled, shaking his head. "You know me, Tony, always chasing that next big strike." Tony nodded, his expression serious. "Speaking of strikes, I heard you've been having a bit of trouble with your latest claim." Parker's heart sank at the mention of his struggles. It had been a tough season, with setbacks at every turn. "Yeah," he admitted, his voice heavy with frustration. "It's been rough out here. Seems like no matter what we do, we just can't catch a break." Tony studied Parker for a moment, his gaze penetrating. Then, to Parker's surprise, he broke into a grin. "Well, I might just have a solution for you, Parker, but it won't come cheap." Parker's interest was piqued. "What kind of solution?" Tony leaned in close, his voice low. "I've got a claim not too far from here that's just ripe for the picking. Plenty of gold to go around, if you know where to look." Parker's eyes widened in disbelief. A claim owned by Tony Beets himself. It was almost too good to be true. "What's the catch?" he asked, wary of any hidden pitfalls. Tony shrugged, his grin widening. "No catch, Parker, just a simple trade. I'll give you access to my claim, and in return, you help me out with a little project I've got going on." Parker frowned, sensing that there was more to Tony's offer than met the eye. "What kind of project?" Tony's grin turned into a smirk. "Let's just say I've got a certain someone in mind who could use your expertise. Someone who's been causing me a bit of trouble lately." Parker's curiosity was piqued. "Who?" Tony leaned in closer, his voice barely a whisper. "Kevin." Kevin. The name sent a chill down Parker's spine. He had heard rumors about Tony's right-hand man, whispers of his cunning and ruthlessness. If Tony was having trouble with Kevin, it could only mean trouble for Parker if he got involved. But the lure of Tony's claim was too strong to resist. Parker knew that with access to Tony's resources, he could finally turn his season around and strike it rich once and for all. "All right, Tony," Parker said, steeling himself for whatever lay ahead. "You've got a deal." Tony grinned, clapping Parker on the back. "Good man, Parker. You won't regret this, I promise you." But as Parker watched Tony disappear into the wilderness, a nagging sense of unease settled in the pit of his stomach. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had just made a deal with the devil himself. Days turned into weeks as Parker worked tirelessly on Tony's claim, his mind never far from the looming threat of Kevin. He had heard whispers of Kevin's presence in the area, his shadowy figure lurking just beyond the edge of his vision. But despite his fears, Parker was determined to make the most of Tony's offer. He threw himself into his work with renewed vigor, his crew working around the clock to extract every last ounce of gold from the earth. And then, one fateful day, Kevin finally made his presence known. Parker was deep in the heart of Tony's claim, overseeing the operation as his crew worked to unearth a particularly rich vein of gold. The air was thick with tension, every member of the crew on edge as they awaited Kevin's arrival. And then, without warning, he appeared. Kevin strode into the camp with an air of confidence, his eyes cold and calculating as they swept over the scene before him. Parker felt a shiver run down his spine as Kevin's gaze landed on him, a smirk playing at the corners of his lips. "Well, well, well," Kevin said, his voice dripping with malice. "Look what we have here. Parker Schnabel, the golden boy himself." Parker squared his shoulders, refusing to show any sign of weakness in the face of his adversary. "What do you want, Kevin?" Kevin's smirk widened, his eyes glinting with mischief. "Oh, nothing much. Just thought I'd come by and see how my old friend Tony's new protege's doing." Parker felt a surge of anger rise within him. Kevin may have been Tony's right-hand man, but he was nothing more than a bully, a thug who used fear to get what he wanted. "Well, as you can see, we're doing just fine," Parker said, his voice steady despite the turmoil raging inside him. "Thanks to Tony's claim, we're pulling in more gold than ever before." Kevin's smirk faltered for a moment, replaced by a flicker of something else. Doubt, perhaps, or maybe even fear, but it was gone in an instant, replaced once again by his trademark smirk. "Is that so?" Kevin said, his tone mocking. "Well, we'll just have to see about that, won't we?" And with that, he turned on his heel and disappeared into the wilderness, leaving Parker and his crew alone once again. But despite Kevin's threats, Parker refused to back down. With Tony's claim at his disposal, he knew that he had the upper hand, and as long as he had that, he was willing to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For Parker Schnabel, The gold rush was far from over, and with Tony Beets by his side, he knew that anything was possible.